This is my first feature documentary that I produced and directed. And I've been thinking about doing this film for a very long time. Um, I originally went to UCLA to get a master's in dance, but then ended up in the film school and getting an MFA in the film school. And even then, in my thesis film, I used one of her pieces in my film. And after I did that, I was like, oh, somebody has to do a film about Bella. And I thought about it for a long time. And then in the late 90s, she closed her company in 1997, and she donated all the materials for the company to USC, to their libraries. So in 1998, I started doing research to see what was there, and I helped them catalog all their film and video and audio things. I moved to California, actually back to California in 2003. And part of my intent in moving here was to make a film about Bella. And at that point, she and her husband were in an assisted living place in Pasadena. So I would go every week and take them to lunch and do shopping and, all this. But I wrote a lot of grants and I just didn't have the money. It just was not the right time or space. So years later, I was teaching filmmaking at Cal State LA, and I decided, well, you better do it now or else it's not going to happen. So I actually did the first interview with Carmen de Lavallade in 2016, but I really started working on it full-time in 2017. And actually ended up retiring from my teaching job in 2019 so I could finish the film. And the film was finished last year.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Tell us about the film. What are the elements? What's your strategy?
Well, the biggest part of it is I felt it very important that we do not have like a narrator, like the voice of God over the film. I wanted to use Bella's voice because I feel like her voice was so important, and because of issues of freedom of speech and what she had gone through politically. So I did find her an oral history that UCLA had done in the early 90s, and I was able to get the cassettes and digitize everything. So we actually have her voice as the narrator for the film. And then we really had to go through a lot of archival materials in her archive, every format that ever existed. And it was really good that I was here in LA because we have a lot of facilities out here that can digitize all kinds of formats. And that's what we did, but it was a real hunt to find things because sometimes they would be in the wrong boxes or they would not be labeled correctly, or there were just all kinds of issues that came up. But we ended up finding some very, very good material. So, I would say a lot of the material of the film is restored archival material. And then we have some interviews, but it's not a lot of I think we have 12 interviews total. I mean, we did 45, but we ended up using like 12.
And what was your strategy or your visual strategy?
Well, the visual strategy, really, I wanted to make sure people could understand choreography, her choreography, and understand dance. So what we did subversively was also try to educate people about dance. So in the beginning of the film, you would see short clips of things, not long pieces. And as the film progressed and we got more and more into talking about her and her technique and what she was doing, then we were able to show longer and longer pieces that were much more involved. So that by the end of the film, we actually show a full 5-minute piece, which is not very common because people will usually be like, you can't do that. People are not going to sit through. But I think because people have this introduction through the whole film and they're starting to understand how to look at dance, that by the time we reach that 5-minute piece, they're ready for it. And, they really like it. So I would say, I wanted to make the film sort of visually stunning, which I think we did with a lot of the materials. But the most important thing to me was staying true to who Bella was and the work that she made.
What would you say was the biggest challenge making this movie?
Money.
And how did you deal with that challenge?
Finding money. Um, we do have a fiscal sponsor, the International Documentary Association. So I did a lot of fundraising, and we actually did fundraise a couple of $100,000 towards the film. And then we had some private donors who gave us interest-free loans, which still have to be paid back. But you know, and right now the biggest challenge for us is distribution. We are, you know, having a theatrical opening next week, which I'm very, very excited about. We are in the Academy screening room, which I'm very excited about. We've been in about 50 festivals. We've won 17 awards. We've been all over the world, and people really love the film. So, as a friend of mine said to me, each film has its journey. You just have to figure out what that journey is. And that is kind of what I'm doing right now. And that can be very difficult at times.
And how is the film being received by the dance community?
Oh, the dance community really, it's being received really well. I mean, we showed it at Lincoln Center last year, and there were a lot of old dancers there and young dancers. The place was packed, and they were just in shock because nobody there knew anything about her. She's kind of this myth um, to a lot of people, especially in the East Coast, who have heard of her, but really have no idea where she came from or who she was or what she looked like or what she did. So they really loved it. And because of that, we showed it in a few more places that were specific dance centers so that people could see it. But yeah, it's received, and it's also being received well by non-dancers, because one thing I tried to do was to make it accessible to non-dancers. So you don't have to be a dancer and know anything about dance to watch it. You can still watch it and get a lot out of it, I think.